Welcome to the America's Workforce Radio Podcast, the flagship production of the American Workers Radio and Podcast Network, where organized labor and its never-ending fight to protect the rights of the American worker come first. Now, presented by LiUNA, Laborers International Union of North America. Here's your host, Ed Flash Ferenc.
Steelworkers flexing their muscle on the U.S. Steel merger, what the legislature did to one teachers union in Florida, and a champion in American labor passes away. Today on the show, it's the latest from the Columbus Central Ohio building trades, and it's our first Friday with Fred. Welcome to the Friday, January 5th edition of America's Workforce, where we are available on at least 5 platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. Mr. Dorsey Hagar will be our first guest today. Longtime supporter of America's Workforce, serves as Executive Secretary-Treasurer of the Columbus Central Ohio Building and Construction Trades Council, a growing bunch, mind you, and that all has to do with the expansion of Central Ohio with so many projects going on. The big story is Intel. We'll talk about that, but I'm reading now that the Columbus Airport worked a deal with the Central Ohio Building Trades for a $2 billion expansion. And when you're talking money like that, you're talking about a lot of good-paying union jobs. Also, community benefit agreements and their effects on the community in Central Ohio. We'll get into that. And we'll take a look at the year ahead in politics. Lots going on in the state of Ohio, which will be a national focus, mind you. So Dorsey will be our first guest. And later in the show, we're going to check in with Fred Redmond, Secretary-Treasurer of the AFL-CIO. And we're going to talk about, we'll take a look at 2024. And the big story in 2023, and this is going to carry over, was artificial intelligence and how we as workers are going to deal with that. All we've been hearing is, there's going to be a lot of jobs that will be eliminated. Well, yes and no. We have to embrace the technology. And I urge you to go to the AFL-CIO website, aflcio.org, and you will see a video there with Liz Schuler, the president, talking with one of the partners at Microsoft. In fact, they just cut a deal. The AFL-CIO just cut a deal with Microsoft on artificial intelligence and its effects on workers. The partnership will have 3 goals: sharing information with workers and their representatives, incorporating worker opinions and expertise into AI systems, and proposing public policies that equip workers with the skills needed for an increasingly AI-powered economy. You know that is happening. Now, we don't have all the details about the terms of the partnership. I'll see what I can get out of Fred on that. But I have to say this. Microsoft, there's a lot of corporations that are not friendly to workers. Let's be honest about that. Microsoft is not one of them. About 2 years ago, they declared themselves neutral toward efforts to unionize. And we're seeing an uptick in organizing at those companies. And you know that's what happens. When a company is neutral, chances go way up that a union is going to happen at that workplace. It's at the companies that fight tooth and nail against workers trying to organize. Microsoft is not in that camp. And we're talking a lot of the gaming companies that Microsoft has acquired over the years. So we'll get into that with Fred. And lastly, next weekend, Our Voice, Our Ballot, Our Future. It's the 2024 AFL-CIO Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Civil and Human Rights Conference. Fred was so involved in this when he was a vice president of human affairs at the Steelworkers. This will be held in Montgomery, Alabama, January 12th, 13th, and 14th. And I'm reading right from the homepage here. The conference will occur at a crucial moment for the labor and civil rights movements as workers across the country are organizing at historic rates for dignity, respect, and justice, both on the job and in our communities. We are facing unprecedented attacks on our rights from politicians and judges who would rather put the interests of corporations over the needs of working people. So here's the deal. We're going to come together not only to strengthen the bond between our two movements, but also reignite our shared commitment to democracy and winning racial and economic justice for all. Just got to give a shout out here to some of the sponsors, our presenting sponsors there, LiUNA. Let's see, the Communication Workers of America, AFGE, Food and Commercial Workers, Painters and Allied Trades, and the Sheet Metal Air Rail Transportation, better known as SMART, along with American Income Life Insurance Company and Union Plus. Our voice, our ballot, our future. Now, a brief look into the world of labor. The segment brought to you by Boyd Watterson Asset Management, offering fixed income, real estate, and equity investment options to clients from coast to coast. Well, you saw this coming. The United Steelworkers Union is attempting to block the purchase of U.S. steel by Nippon Steel, which is based in Japan. The union is now lobbying a bipartisan group of lawmakers to pressure regulators to block the deal, mainly on national security grounds. They are also, the steelworkers, are contending that the deal occurred in violation of its collective bargaining agreement with the company. We've had several discussions on this issue, starting off with Dave McCall. That was the Friday before Christmas. You might want to check his comments on that podcast, awfpodcast.com. That was the December 22nd edition. We just had Pat Gallagher, who retired from the Steelworkers last year, and he was on Tuesday's show talking about this. But they are at work trying to make sure this does not happen. The United Teachers of Dade, UTD, in Miami-Dade County, Florida, has failed to meet the 60% membership threshold, which is required by a new right-to-work law, potentially leading to its decertification. This is horrible, what happened in Florida. This is a law that was supported by Governor Ron DeSantis and state Republicans. It was backed by, yes, the Freedom Foundation. Boy, we've talked about that organization many, many times on the show, especially with Melissa Cropper. And this is a group that has attacked teacher unions all around the country, including here in the state of Ohio. The whole idea aimed to decertify the union and create an alternative labor organization. In a statement sent to the Miami Herald this week, the union confirmed that an audit conducted by an independent auditor showed that the number of eligible employees who were union-paying members fell short of the threshold, despite the fact that the union added more than 800 new members, which was tremendous growth. So again, they changed the rules in the game. Used to be 50% plus one, okay? Now it's 60%. Imagine if they applied that to politicians and lawmakers. You got to get 60% of the vote in order to be elected. There's a lot of people that wouldn't fall into that category. But this is what they have done in the state of Florida. So sad, so sad. You know what's also sad? We lost a labor giant, Ed Smith. Man, I was shocked when I got this news. And we're in the process, by the way, of going through our archives. I did an interview with Ed. Ed was the head of Ulico, and he comes from our presenting sponsor, LiUNA. I mean, his background, he was born in Illinois, thought of the labor movement as his calling rather than a job. In fact, he got this passion from his father, who served as the business manager of Local 773, going back from 1942 to 76. And then Ed joined the union at the age of 13. Can you imagine that? 13 years old. He worked as a laborer, took over as Local 773 business manager by the age of 21. This guy was on a mission. Oh, he had so much energy. In fact, I was talking to our producer just yesterday. The last interview we did with Ed was back in 2018. And what we're going to do in the next couple of weeks is play a good chunk of that interview and get Terry O'Sullivan on the line. He was very, very close to Terry O'Sullivan, who is now retired as general president of Labor's International. But getting back to Ed Smith, he was the first LiUNA member in the country to graduate from the National Labor College. How about that? He took part in the Harvard Trade Union program, attending classes with Harvard MBA students and debating case studies in labor history. He focused his efforts at LiUNA on using innovative strategies to protect labor rights. He led 40 organizing drives during the 70s and the 80s with groups across southern Illinois, including police, government workers, healthcare employees, highway workers. 39 of those drives proved successful, boosting Local 773's membership from 300 to 4,000. So organizing, obviously, he was very good at that. But, Ed Smith's legacy is what he did at Ullico. Ullico is an insurance company, and he joined them back in 2008. Now, consider what was going on in America at that time. That was the financial meltdown. The big banks, the brokerage houses. That's when he joined Ullico. And at that time, he assembled a very experienced management team, fought to give them the resources they needed, and worked very, very hard, morning, noon, and night, to redouble the company's commitment to labor. Rather than play it safe, Ed offered bold leadership and new ideas to move the company forward. As there was no labor-friendly infrastructure investment fund in the marketplace, Ed Smith set out to start one. Despite critics saying it couldn't be done, well, guess what? He hired the right people and started traveling the country to convince labor leaders to invest in what was then just an ambitious idea. Fast forward to today. We have a pension fund that is helping unions. That's what this is all about. I mean, he made so many relationships. He built something that many people said couldn't happen, and here we are today. There's no doubt in my mind this man was a visionary, and sadly, he passed away on Tuesday of this week. Ed Smith, a champion, a true champion of American labor. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Dorsey Hagar, on behalf of the Columbus Central Ohio Building Trades, coming up next.
You're listening to America's Workforce with Ed Flash Ferenc.
It takes LiUNA to build North America's infrastructure. From roads and bridges to schools and skyscrapers, the men and women of LiUNA, the Laborers International Union of North America, build the projects we depend on. From constructing the Freedom Tower on the site of the former World Trade Center to untangling Washington, D.C.'s congested interstate, LiUNA members do the work that matters. Find out what it takes to be built by LiUNA at LiUNA.org. That's LiUNA.org.
The Iron Workers Great Lakes District Council, consisting of 8 iron worker local unions in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan. We build the skylines and bridges along the Great Lakes. With more work than ever before, the Great Lakes District Council is actively searching out the next great iron worker, whether it's building the next Intel plant or constructing a bridge to safely connect our great cities along the lake. So join the Iron Workers Great Lakes District Council today. Find out how and learn more about the council by visiting iwdistrictcouncil.com. America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the International Federation of Professional and Technical Engineers. You can find more at ifpte.org.
America's Workforce Radio is sponsored in part by the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, District Council 6, representing painters, glazers, drywall finishers, and sign and display industry workers. They remind you that belonging to a union is your right as an American.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, where you can find more at teamster.org.
This segment of America's Workforce is brought to you by Survey and Ballot Systems. SBS has been providing unions with secure and flexible election options for over 30 years. Visit surveyandballotsystems.com to learn more.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the United Steelworkers. You can find more at usw.org.
Now, back to America's Workforce. Here's Ed Flash Ferenc.
And remember, you can check us out on Facebook or follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. That would be AWF Union Podcast. By the way, this next segment brought to you in part by the United Labor Agency, ulagency.org for complete updates. Let's go to Columbus, Ohio. Welcome a longtime supporter of America's Workforce. That would be Mr. Dorsey Hagar, serving as Executive Secretary-Treasurer of the Columbus Central Ohio Building and Construction Trades Council. Website, columbusconstruction.org. Every time we talk to Dorsey, something new is popping up. More investments, and the latest being the Columbus Airport, a $2 billion expansion. Dorsey Hagar, Happy New Year to you. But it's been a couple of Happy New Years here in the last let's see, since 2001. It seems things have really picked up in Central Ohio, and obviously the center point is that Intel plant. So you know what? Let's start right there. How are we progressing on that, Dorsey?
Everything's going great at Intel. We're still pouring concrete. We got the 2 batch plants completed out there, so they're making and mixing concrete, delivering it, pouring it on site. I would say right now we've probably got over 800 craft people out there, a lot of iron workers, a lot of operating engineers, laborers, cement masons. We've got, probably 30 to 40 electricians, probably 40 to 50 pipe fitters getting ready to start some of the underground stuff. Obviously, that'll ramp up a lot quarter 2 of this year, but they're pouring the concrete, digging out the base for the plants and everything, and we're starting to get numbers and timelines on the water treatment plant that's going to be on site, and a lot of the front of the house stuff that's going to be on site, like the support buildings, the office buildings, and stuff like that. So I was out there a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to try to get out there again next week, but it is amazing how fast everything changes just from week to week out there. And it's not only the plant, it's not only the site, but it's the area around it. I mean, we've got so many folks out there, heavy highway doing road expansion and working on the interstate and all that, just to be able to get ready to bring those 7,000 to 10,000 tradespeople in and out of that facility every day. So it's been awesome to watch. The photos are amazing. The videos are amazing. It's incredible. I mean, I saw the finished product in Portland. I saw the finished product in Phoenix and was astounded by that. But to see it, and I'm hopeful I'll get to see start to finish, but to see it start and just come out of the ground is absolutely awesome. And a couple of weeks ago when I was out there, I was asked to go out there by Tiviejo and Jeff Biederman, Labor Relations for Bechtel, and they're the general contractor on the plant, and they celebrated 1 million man-hours worked without a lost time accident, 1 million man-hours. And, of course, I saw a lot of diversity on the job, a lot of people of color, a lot of females, a lot of vets, a lot of Hispanics. And everybody, as I walked through and toured, was coming up to Jeff and Tivy and, thanking them for the work and the opportunity and the way that they had been treated and stuff. And they had this huge luncheon celebrating the milestone. And I got to stand up and speak and say a few words in front of the folks, which is incredible. And then when I sat back down, I turned to Tivy. I said, wow, I said, 1 million man-hours. I said, that's incredible. And he said, just think before the year's out, we'll be working 1 million man-hours a month. A month. And just that number astounded me. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be crazy, but we're excited. We're looking forward to it. We're preparing for 2024. We had our first meeting of the year, our delegate meeting, a couple nights ago, and I just kind of recapped 2023. Looks like my projections are correct. We're going to eclipse 10 million man-hours worked, which will be the most ever for the Columbus and Central Ohio building trades. If you look back 10 years ago, when a lot of us came into office, myself, Tim Ely, Rodney French, Harry Mullins from the IUPAT, we were working about 4.1 million man-hours a year. So to get up over 10 million man-hours in 1 year is absolutely astonishing. for this local here in Columbus and Central Ohio. And we've seen some tremendous growth, and we're incredibly fortunate.
So more than doubled in the past 10 years when it comes to man-hours work. That's incredible. You know, you mentioned the concrete, and I wonder if you could paint a picture here of the footprint of that Intel plant, because I'm just thinking that's a whole lot of concrete that's being poured right now, right?
I would say when you lay the Eiffel Tower down in Paris, the fab, the main plant's going to be wider than the Eiffel Tower. And I would say under roof would probably be 12 First Energy stadiums, 12 Cleveland Brown stadiums.
Oh, my.
Yeah. I mean, just the massive amount of concrete. And I remember, 2 years ago when we were talking about the project, and obviously those guys are a lot smarter than me, and they've done mega projects like this all over the world. But, when they told me they were going to put 2 batch plants on site, obviously that's the way to go. You can't be hauling in concrete in and out and stuff. You've got to have it there. You've got to make it there, and you've got to pour it there. And those are tremendous opportunities for all the Teamsters we have out there driving those concrete trucks. And, it's an incredible thing to watch. We took a tour about 6 or 8 weeks ago with our Building Future staff, case managers and stuff, because we're getting graduates out there from Building Future, so the folks wanted to see it. And, some of those walls and stuff underground, exterior concrete walls, are more than 16 feet thick. And somebody asked me, why are they so thick? And I said, well, they got to protect from vibrations, got to protect the equipment, everything else. So there's a lot of precautions taken into when you're investing $20 billion in that first phase and in those first 2 fabs of that chip plant. So it's absolutely astonishing. Anybody, I've probably learned more about chip plants in the last 2 years than I ever thought I would learn, and I probably don't even fully understand 5% of the whole process. That's how much goes into it. It's absolutely incredible.
Well, Dorsey, your words have certainly painted a picture. That being said, I'm just wondering, there's got to be a ton of video that's been captured here over the last couple of years on what's been going on there with this Intel plant. Is that eventually going to be posted on the columbusconstruction.org website? Because that would be a cool thing to watch.
No, it would be, and we've had conversations about that. And with technology and everything, and a lot of the stuff that we do utilizing drones and stuff, you get some incredible pictures and some incredible videos, and we're going to look at getting some of that and posting that online, especially before the plant becomes operational, because obviously when it becomes close to operational, there's going to be huge security concerns because of some of the chips that they make, and for national defense, missile defense, stuff like that. But early on in the stages, I think there's a lot of stuff that we'll be able to get access to that we can post and make public. And, the good thing about that, too, is that's going to create even more buzz and excitement for a lot of people who are either underemployed or unemployed, or folks that are in high school right now looking for a career. And we can, like I've said, we can go to them, we can talk to them. Do you want to be a plumber? Do you want to be a pipe fitter, electrician, insulator, sheet metal worker, laborer, iron worker? We got 25 years worth of work right here in Licking County, one county over. So exciting opportunities, and it'll help create a lot of buzz, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of buzz about the airport too. Talk to me about this expansion, and this is not a small expansion. We're talking $2 billion. What's going on here?
Yeah, so we heard about this about a year ago, and I started having meetings with the Columbus Regional Airport Authority in June to try to secure this work for ourselves. So there's good news and there's bad news. So the good news is it looks like Columbus John Glenn Airport is going to build a new terminal to handle increased traffic. So in the past, we've been averaging about 7 million travelers a month. We're now getting close to 13 million travelers a month. I'm sure that'll go up once more of Meta is built out, Facebook, once a lot of Amgen and Pharmavite, the pharmaceutical stuff, is built out. Obviously, once Intel is built out, and a lot of the suppliers, and then also Honda, the electric vehicle. I'm sure air traffic will continue to grow, especially with our community. I mean, it's projected in the next 10 years that Central Ohio is going to grow by 1 million residents, which is absolutely astonishing. So we need a bigger terminal. We need a new airport. So they're going to build a new terminal. The cost of that terminal is going to be about $1.5 billion. And then after that's open and operational, they're going to raise the existing terminal, tear it down, do improvements around infrastructure, roads and stuff, and that'll probably be another $500 million. So we're looking at about a $2 billion project. And, there's not a lot of companies that can handle a project of that size. Turner, who's a local company here, a local contractor, does a lot of big work. They're doing the OSU Medical Center. They're doing Meta. They did the downtown Hilton here. They did the downtown Hilton in Cleveland. They bid it. They were not awarded it. Instead, the Regional Airport Authority went with a construction manager at risk by the name of Hensel Phelps, who's done terminals all over the world. Most recently, they did LAX. They're currently working on SeaTac, which is in Seattle. Hensel Phelps is one of the largest ABC contractors in the country, extremely anti-union. They've partnered with a signatory here, general contractor Elford. And we've had conversations with Joe Nardone, the president of the Columbus Regional Airport Authority. We've had conversations with their government affairs person, Kristen Easterday. And we've also had several meetings with Hensel Phelps and Elford. But as of to date, there is no community benefit agreement in place. Obviously, my folks, my managers, my agents, a lot of our members are highly upset about this and very skeptical about this project going forward. When we had the first outreach meeting, the question was asked, will prevailing wage be paid on this project? A representative, Hensel Phelps, said no, there is no prevailing wage requirement on this project. About 6 weeks later, they came out with a statement, walked it back, and said they were going to pay prevailing wage, which then I met with them and I asked them what the enforcement mechanism was if somebody on the job was not being paid the proper wages and benefits, and they said that basically they would withhold payment to their contractor until that person was paid wages and benefits. And I said, that's not really going to work. I said, imagine you're working for a company, they're cheating you out of wages and benefits, you rat on them to the general, and then they don't get paid their draws going forward. I don't see what the motivation is to come clean and help somebody. So obviously prevailing wage is going to be very difficult to be administered on that project. So we're still trying to get a community benefit agreement. We've gotten letters of support from City Council, President Shannon Hardin, Pro Tem Rob Dorrance, who's an IBW member. We've gotten a letter of support from Mayor Andy Ginter. We've gotten letters of support from all the county commissioners and our Ohio Democratic delegation in the State House and the Senate, Minority Leader Russo, Dontavius Geralds, Bill DeMora. We got a letter from our county engineer, Republican county engineer, Cornell Robertson. So everybody's weighed in on this. They think it's a huge benefit for the community not to do a community benefit agreement that ensures that local people are doing this and getting paid the proper wages and benefits and health insurance. And for right now, the CEO, Joe Nardone, and their contractor, Hensel Phelps and Elford, don't see it that way. So, we're getting close to seeing where the money hits the road, and we'll see what happens next.
Whoa, that is really sad. A project of that scope, too, $2 billion. Wow, I can't believe. Now, have they been able to get any community benefit agreements in other cities that they've worked in?
Yeah, they're currently working under a project labor agreement in Seattle. And when I asked Hensel Phelps and their lead project manager, who's going to be here, why not Columbus? And he's like, well, we did a research of the market and we decided that it wasn't needed here in Columbus, which everything that I've said to all the electeds and all the people on the board of CRAA is that's a slap in the face. So they're saying people in Seattle deserve to make the industry standard wages, benefits, and health care, but people in Columbus don't. I mean, that makes no sense to me. And what I don't think that they understand, and I think a lot of our electeds and a lot of our community leaders understand, is what they're going to do is if they go forward without a community benefit agreement in place, is they're just going to create a breeding ground for organizers. A few weeks ago, the UA alone, One International, had over 110 organizers in Central Ohio doing an organizing blitz, not only trying to get contractors, but obviously getting members because we need people. So you're going to have all these different trades sending in organizers from all over the country because Columbus is by far and away the busiest market in the United States. And it's just going to be a breeding ground. They're going to be there morning, noon, and night. They're going to be talking to the workers at the restaurants. They're going to be talking to the workers at the gas stations. They're going to be talking to the workers at the bars. They're going to be talking to the workers at their homes. They're going to be doing home visits, hotel visits, visiting on their campgrounds, wherever they're staying. And, if they're at the airport making substandard wages and benefits, there's going to be so many opportunities in Columbus and Central Ohio for them to go. Like we said, OSU Medical Center. We're getting ready to sign a community benefit agreement on the crime lab with the city of Columbus. The mayor has ensured that we're going to have a CBA in the new municipal courthouse. We've got a $20 billion job at Intel under a project labor agreement that they're looking at going to incentive pay on that. Honda is already paying incentive pay $150 to $200 a week, depending on attendance and tardiness. A lot of our solar projects are paying incentive pay. There's jobs around the region that are paying up to $125 in incentive pay, and there's jobs outside of the region that are under project labor agreements that are paying $10 over scale and $265 a day in incentive pay. So it's just going to create a breeding ground for organizing, and that's before we even talk about the job actions. You know, what if the UA, what if the IBW, what if the IUPAT feels disenfranchised on that project? They're going to have job actions there daily. Everybody that works inside the airport, the pilots, the people that check people in, the people that clean and maintain the airport, the baggage handlers are all union. You know, are all of them going to cross that picket line every day there's a job action? What about our elected leaders and our folks here, Republican and Democrat, that are pro-labor? Are they going to cross picket lines to fly in and out of Columbus? You know, so I'm trying to, and the mayor asked point blank, what is their reasoning for not agreeing to a community benefit agreement? And I said, they have not given us one and cannot give us one. And we've laid all the traps for them. And you know, I wouldn't want to deal with that. It seems like it would be much simpler. Our state building trades leader, Mike Nisley, and Mark Douglas have even got involved. And it's like Mike said, sign me up for the first 2-hour shift on the picket duty. I'll get the truck and drive the rat around for 2 hours. I can do that easily. So.
Oh, my gosh. This is one to watch. Holy smoke.
And it's a 7-year project, Flash. A 7-year project. And you know, because you've heard me say on this program before, this is what our organizers do who meet monthly. We create a database of all the projects in Columbus and Central Ohio that we have lost. And if a call comes in for 30 electricians and the book is empty, they have those projects. They can go out and they can strip to find those 30 electricians.
Dorsey Hagar joining us on our live line today. Dorsey, Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Columbus Central Ohio Building and Construction Trades Council. Well, you laid a good one on me there. That was a surprise, no doubt about that. We'll continue with Dorsey later in the show. It's going to be our first Friday with Fred Redmond of the AFL-CIO. Back in a few minutes.
This is America's Workforce. More shows available at awfradio.com.
It takes LiUNA to power North America with affordable energy. The men and women of LiUNA, the Laborers International Union of North America, have the skills needed to build and maintain oil, natural gas, nuclear, solar, and wind projects that are shaping America's energy future. From new energy tech to retrofitted facilities, LiUNA members do it all. Find out what it takes to be powered by LiUNA at liuna.org. That's LiUNA.org.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Heat and Frost Insulators Labor Management Cooperative Trust. Find out more at insulators.org/LMCT.
America's Workforce appreciates our sponsor, the Columbus Central Ohio Building and Construction Trades Council, who represents more than 18,000 workers from 19 affiliated local unions and district councils.
Attention members of the Heat and Frost Insulators Union who are interested in traveling. Central Ohio has more construction projects on the books than anywhere in the U.S. Mega projects, large and medium-sized jobs are creating more work than our local 50 brothers and sisters can handle. Projects like Intel, the Honda LG battery plant, and multiple data centers for Facebook, Google, and Amazon offer union wages, overtime, and exciting incentives. Local 50 is seeking union travelers to meet the needs of its signatory contractors who can put you to work immediately. If you're a member in good standing and interested in the work opportunities in Central Ohio, visit insulators50.com/AWF travel for more information. America's Workforce is presented by the Laborers International Union of North America. Feel the power right now at LiUNA.org.
Now, back to Ed Flash Ferenc with America's Workforce.
And remember, you can check us out on at least 5 platforms. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Pandora. And when you get an opportunity, here's what you do. Just sign up and receive our shows on a regular basis and give us a rating. We always appreciate those 5-star ratings, so please keep them coming. By the way, this next segment brought to you in part by the Ohio Federation of Teachers. OH.AFT.org is our website. Let's go back to our live line and rejoin Dorsey Hagar on behalf of the Columbus Central Ohio Building and Construction Trades Council. Now, I'm still blown away about what happened with that bidding on the Columbus airport. We'll definitely stay on that issue, especially when you got the ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors, involved. Notoriously anti-union. But let's turn the page here and talk about politics. This is going to be a very interesting year, especially when it comes to gerrymandering and trying to redistrict the districts in the state of Ohio. And Ohio it's not been good. In fact, Common Cause came out with a report that we're probably the most gerrymandered state in the country right now. So what do you see ahead here, Dorsey?
Well, we're coming off 2023, which was incredibly important. We had to make sure we kept our friends in city council. We worked our butts off to get Sarah Ingalls elected to Columbus City School Board. So it's positive coming out of 23, but then the fight begins right away in 2024. Obviously, Sherrod Brown, he's got Bernie Marino, Frank LaRose, and Matt Dolan coming after him. I think priority one is getting Sherrod Brown reelected. Nobody works harder in the U.S. Senate for organized members and organized labor and unions and all working people than Sherrod Brown. I mean, fighting on the floor of the Senate to make sure that a project labor agreement was going to be instilled at Intel and tied into the CHIPS Act, and also making sure that that money was tied into getting people of color and women, minorities and unions, because the pay and the benefits on those projects were huge. And then all the work that he did with former Senator Rob Portman to finally get the Brent Spence Bridge across the finish line. So we've got to do what we can. We got to bust our butt. I was fortunate enough to be at his press conference when he turned his signatures in a couple weeks ago. But we've got to get Senator Sherrod Brown reelected. And then some of the other statewide offices, obviously in Franklin County, I feel good about some of our pro-labor Democrats because Franklin County is such a stronghold. And, we talked about gerrymandering and redistricting. Some of these districts have been gerrymandered to really overload Democrats. So there's some districts here in Franklin County that have like an 82% DPI, but obviously we want to make sure that Leader Russo gets reelected, but also what she can do to help pick up seats in areas where there's Republicans that are either funded by Americans for Prosperity or not pro-labor. And then we have to identify our pro-labor Republicans here in Columbus and Central Ohio, too. A lot of them are going to get primaried from folks from Americans for Prosperity, and we've got to get involved early. I think the primary is March 17th this year. We've got to get involved early and make sure that we work for them. We get our members out, lit drops, door knocking, get to fundraisers, get to events, make sure that they're financed and they're okay because they've got to withstand these primary challenges from some of these people that are way, way far right, that their biggest reason for running is attacking and doing away with unions, not only building trades unions, but also teachers unions, private sector unions, public sector unions, and all those, which will obviously set the state of Ohio back and could be a threat to everything that's going on here positively for our economy and for development going forward. So there's a lot of things we're keeping our eyes on. And then last thing I want to mention is a good friend of mine has worked at the county engineer's office for 31 years, served 3 terms as the Franklin County engineer. Cornell Robertson, he will be retiring. He's not running for re-election. He announced over the holidays. So his last day will be January 31st. The Republicans will appoint somebody to finish out his last year of his term, and then we'll have an election for that office in November. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
By the way, the primary is going to be on March 19th. I think you gave St. Patty's Day there.
19th. Yeah, I did. So St. Patty's Day, we get ready for the 19th. How's that? So.
There you go. Okay. That's a nice warm-up to primary day. Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right, we're going to leave it on that note. You loaded me up with a lot of information today. Dorsey Hagar, Executive Secretary-Treasurer of the Columbus Central Ohio Building and Construction Trades Council. You can follow them on Twitter, Build Central, OH, and columbusconstruction.org is a website. You take care. And we'll do this again in February, okay?
Sounds good. 1 week, Flash. 1 week and the playoff starts, and we get to watch them this year with our Browns. I cannot wait.
We are fired up in northeastern Ohio. No doubt about that. Go Brownies. Okay, buddy, you take care.
All right. You too. Have a good weekend. Thanks.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. Fred Redmond, it's our first Friday with Fred. He's coming up next.
This is America's Workforce.
It takes LiUNA to keep America running. Over 70,000 public employees are part of LiUNA, the Laborers International Union of North America, delivering critical services such as healthcare and emergency response, as well as maintaining roads and sanitation systems. Even the National Postal Mail Handlers Union, representing over 47,000 U.S. postal workers, is affiliated with LiUNA. Find out what it takes for LiUNA to keep America running at LiUNA.org. That's LiUNA.org.
There is unity and strength for workers.
We are the USW.
We are the USW.
The United Steelworkers.
The largest industrial union in North America.
We represent 850,000 members in the U.S., Canada, and the Caribbean.
We work in metals,
rubber,
chemicals,
paper,
oil refining,
atomic energy, and the service sector.
We are steelworkers, standing strong and fighting for what's right.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the United Auto Workers. Find more at uaw.org.
A great union requires a reliable election system. Survey and Ballot Systems is a trusted election partner with more than 30 years of expertise in managing union elections. By partnering with SBS, your union can ensure it gets an auditable process and a high level of customer service. SBS is here to help you conduct your union vote securely, transparently, and with trust building always in mind. Visit surveyandballotsystems.com to learn more.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Communication Workers of America. You can find more at cwa-union.org.
America's Workforce is sponsored in part by Boyd Watterson Asset Management, LLC. Find out more about our investment solutions tailored to meet the needs of Taft-Hartley funds at boydwatterson.com.
America's Workforce is brought to you in part by the Iron Workers. You can find more at ironworkers.org.
Now, back to America's Workforce. Here's Ed Flash Ferenc.
And remember, you can check us out on Facebook or follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. That would be AWF Union Podcast. First Friday of the new year, that means it's Fred Redmond, Secretary-Treasurer of the AFL-CIO, national website AFL-CIO.org. And if you go there, you will see a video with Liz Schuler talking about artificial intelligence with one of the leaders of Microsoft. This is really interesting, and I'll tell you, that was a big story last year. You're going to hear a whole lot more about it this year, and Fred is in the middle of it all. So, Fred, well, Happy New Year to you first, and welcome back to the show. Talk to me about this partnership with Microsoft. Sounds pretty interesting.
Well, first of all, Happy New Year to you, Flash, and your listeners. And look, we are excited about setting a template on, that we hope that other corporations, as they enter into this age of artificial intelligence and cybersecurity and the whole future of work with, changing up of the workplaces, we set a template with Microsoft that we find very interesting, but also very progressive. And we hope that more corporations who are really investing in artificial intelligence will look at what we've done with Microsoft. And this came to fruition through our Future of Work department along with our Technology Institute. In late 2022, they went to a seminar and they heard Brad Smith, the vice president and newly appointed president of Microsoft, talk about issues of cybersecurity and artificial intelligence and how Microsoft wanted to be at the cutting edge. And the thing that differentiated Brad Smith was he talked about worker involvement and how it was important to sit down with workers and work through this technology and try to eliminate fears. And our folks were so impressed, they set up a meeting with Liz Schuler, the president of the AFL-CIO. And Liz met with Brad Smith. She had an initial meeting with them in November of 2022, which really expanded into a series of discussions throughout last year that culminated in a neutrality agreement with not just Microsoft, but all of their subsidiaries that, are engaged in artificial intelligence. And through a relationship, through the communication workers unions and one of Microsoft's subsidiaries, we entered into a neutrality agreement that really, really protects the workers' jobs, engage the workers as partners in the implementation of artificial intelligence, really gives the workers input, and really, really is a template for how we think that we could deal with this issue of artificial intelligence through collective bargaining and through these sort of partnerships with a primary focus of trying to alleviate some of the fears that workers have, and also to make sure that we have job security and that workers' jobs are being protected as we go through this transition. Now, we have our differences on different things, but this is a gigantic step, and we were pleased to hold the announcement at our headquarters, regarding this partnership with Microsoft, and we're very excited about it.
Yeah, hopefully other companies will follow on this. So the bottom line in all this, I mean, we both can agree, in labor as well as Microsoft, that workers need to have a seat at the table. That's pretty much what we're talking about, right?
Absolutely. We have no illusions that we're going to stop. When I say we, I'm talking about the labor movement, the implementation of artificial intelligence. But we definitely need a seat at the table. We need to discuss the people who's going to be affected by the implementation of these processes. And, this sort of partnership, we think, is the best way to address the implementation of artificial intelligence and the expansion of artificial intelligence in the workplace. Because, look, there's no industry that's not going to be affected by this technology. Right. And, workers are the ones who are, at the forefront of this. And through the intervention of Brad Smith of Microsoft, we think we have a template that, like you said, we hope that other companies could follow.
All right, let's talk about MLK Day coming up, which is going to be a week from this coming Monday. And boy, I remember having many conversations with you and your vice president of Steelworkers with Human Affairs for so many years, talking about the Martin Luther, the MLK conferences. And I guess they go into different cities. This one's going to happen actually next weekend, January 12th, 13th, and 14th in Montgomery, Alabama. The theme is Our Voice, Our Ballot, Our Future. Fred, this is all yours. I know you are so engaged in these. You've been engaged in these over the years, and you've got to be pretty excited about next weekend.
Well, I am excited. The Secretary of Treasury's office, my office at the AFL-CIO, have taken the lead on this conference. And, we're happy to be going to Montgomery, which is the cradle of the civil rights movement. And, this is a time when we're going to pause next weekend and, pay respect to the civil rights movement, to the, and do a remembrance that Dr. King took his last breath as Memphis, Tennessee, standing up for sanitation workers. But it's also going to be a moment where we're going to really, really talk about the future and talk about the largest election mobilization that the AFL-CIO is going to unleash this year, going into the 2024 elections. We're going to have a lot of panel discussions. We got some dynamic speakers. But, we're going to talk about, saving democracy, because we think that's where we at in this country, that democracy is being threatened. We have over about 830 delegates as of yesterday that have registered for the conference. And what we want, our goal is to make sure that people leave there energized, mobilized, and ready to go to work this year to continue our fight toward a just and fair and equitable country, and also to make sure that we're energized going into November and, make sure that we elect candidates up and down the ballot that's pro-workers. And so we're excited about next weekend. We're looking forward to it. And, we're going to have an exciting time. And but more importantly, we're going to make sure that our rank and file members throughout our 60 unions are energized and ready to put in the work next year. This year.
Now, Fred, you've been doing these for a long time. I'm wondering if you could give us a little insight. Maybe, this is a 3-day thing. Obviously, there's a lot of workshops, and
right.
I get the impression that what you do during this event is you create a kind of like a blueprint of what is going to happen politically for 2024. I know you're energized. I know labor is so united. I know about, 2023 was a great year for organizing, and many labor scholars feel it's going to continue, along with the strikes. There's some big contracts up. I know postal workers. There's going to be mechanics over at Boeing.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. But I'm wondering, can you share some of the details of what goes on at a conference like this?
Sure. Well, we use this conference as a way to, first of all, pay honor and pay all our respect to Dr. King and the work that he did and the effort that the AFL-CIO participated in to make his birthday a holiday weekend.
Right.
And, Dr. King, we want this weekend to be about work because that's what Dr. King was about. So this weekend, we always use it to set the tone for the labor movement going into a new year. So we're going to have a lot of discussion about some of the key congressional races, some of the key senatorial races, governor races throughout the country. We're expecting to hear from, some of the candidates that's going to be joining us, such as people like Sherrod Brown and others, to talk about the future of the labor movement in this country. And then we go out one day and we do community service in the spirit of Dr. King. So we have sites in Montgomery. We got women's shelters. We got, cleanup that we're going to be doing, and some cemeteries that's dilapidated in Montgomery. And, there's going to be a series of community service work. And then on Sunday, we're going to have a religious service where we're going to, worship during that day. And then we close the conference out Sunday evening with an award ceremony where we will be awarding some of the heroes of the labor movement and the civil rights movement. So, it's a moment of reflection for the labor movement, but it's also a weekend of education. It's a weekend of rededicating our movement toward the issue of expanding the relationship and reflecting on the relationship between the civil rights community and the labor community. And it's really a time for us to come together and to chart the course for the remainder of this year. And there's no bigger issue before the labor movement right now than to make sure that we save our democracy in November during the national elections, and to continue the energy that we saw in 2023 with workers turning toward the union in unprecedented organizing numbers. And we'll have some of those newly organized union members at the conference to talk about the importance of a collective bargaining agreement and talk about the importance of the trade union movement in this country. So, what we do at this conference, most of the attendees is rank and file members from our 60 affiliate unions. And, what we do, as I stated, is to really, really set the tone for 2024.
Our voice, our ballot, our future. You get all the information at aflcio.org. Okay, my brother, you take care.
Okay.
Good luck next weekend, and we'll talk in a month, okay?
Okay, will do. Thank you, Flash.
All right, that'll be it for another edition of America's Workforce. Coming up on Monday, the latest from the Valley Labor Report and the Professional Aviation Specialist. Until then, all of you have a safe and wonderful weekend.
That concludes another episode of the America's Workforce Radio Podcast. Thanks for listening, and be sure to subscribe so you never miss a show. America's Workforce is a production of Labor Tools and BMA Media Group. Find out more information online at labortools.com.